Are you a parent with a child who just falls apart over a single wrong answer on a test? Do you have one of those kids who just wants to quit the team after one bad game, or a teenager who won't even try out, not because they don't want to, but because they can't risk failing? Man, I know parents feel so helpless when they're watching this. But I want you to know the kids, they're not lazy, they're not being dramatic. Actually, something else is happening. And today we want to talk about what's actually going on and how to build something very crucial in your kid: failure tolerance. And we're going to show you how to do that from the inside out, because it is going to be a precious skill and tool that you want to give to your kid before they go off into the real world, because they're going to need it, because failing is a part of being human. Now, I want to tell you about something really exciting going on. In a week from the drop of this podcast, is Tina Payne Bryson is going to be in Tulsa at Riverfield. And right now, they're going to be doing an open parent night. There might be a little bit of cost to it. I'm not sure if it's going to be free or may cost, but it's going to be well worth your money. So be putting that on your account. April 13th, that's a Monday night. She'll be speaking for about an hour and a half or 2 hours to just any parents, not just Riverfield parents, but you can come and hear some amazing wisdom from her about how to parent differently, how to really be connected with your kids, and you will not want to miss it. So be checking out our social media on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, all those things where we'll post more details as I get them. But mark it on your calendar, Monday, April 13th. And real quick, if you haven't taken the time to do it, please pause, rate, review the podcast, leave us some comments about how this podcast is helping you. It's always encouraging to us, because we're doing all this for free and we're just wanting to help parents. But it really, when we get those comments, it makes it all worthwhile to us. And it's great to hear your feedback. So look forward to you diving into the subject of failure tolerance.
Welcome to the Art of Raising Humans.
The Art of Raising Humans is a podcast designed to support, equip, and encourage parents on how to create long-lasting, deeply connected relationships with their kids that's free from fear and shame. Come join us on the journey. Hello and welcome to The Art of Raising Humans. I'm Kyle.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah.
And today, Sarah, we want to talk about an interesting topic, okay? It's something that I'm seeing a lot when I'm helping kids, I'm seeing a lot of kids who are really struggling when they lose, And this term can be called failure tolerance, like the ability to, tolerate losing a game or tolerate messing up a test and getting a bad grade. And the ability to do that and not just completely fall apart.
Right. Yeah, because you see a lot of different reactions, which we're going to get into, but kids who won't try or won't do or fall.
Oh, it's true.
Apart.
They may not even want to try.
Yeah. Whenever
that's
they're
good. Yeah.
I'm going to go learn to roller skate. Never mind. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you're bringing up, I was saying like kids who I've seen, they fail at something and they flip out about it or freak out. Yeah. But you're talking about kids who won't even try something new because they believe
we'll
they
get
will.
Into this. There's different types of failure tolerance.
Yes.
But that's the topic we want to talk about, because I think every parent's thinking, I want my kid to go out and try things and be brave and feel like they can mess up and keep going.
Yeah, they can make mistakes and it's not going to kill you.
Can lose at Uno to, really mess up at something bigger, right? So we're all aware of this and we want to build it in our child.
Yes.
And we get concerned when we think they can't handle it.
Yeah, but what we're not talking about, because I know is when you bring some of this up, my old school mindset says, are we talking about making our kids tough? Are we teaching our kids to have grit? I want them to push through the pain. Right? Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Okay, we're not talking about that. So it's actually what we're trying to hit upon is helping the listeners understand that failure tolerance is basically the nervous system's ability to stay regulated even when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Or they just go south, right?
Right.
Okay. And so if a kid has good failure tolerance, they can feel the disappointment and not be destroyed by it, right? And every parent who's experienced that, you're like, what is happening? Why are they so upset, right?
Yeah.
And then that we want our kids to be able to stay in the game even when the outcome is uncertain, right? I mean, really, I'd actually like them to play their best in those moments because that's what's needed. And also we want them to be able to try again without that last failure just becoming part of their identity.
Right. Yeah. So it's a skill that actually has to be built and taught, and it takes time. And so, yeah, that's what I love this topic. I think it's so important because we all even probably know adults who struggle when they lose a game, or struggle with failure, or struggle to keep going when something hard hits them, when they do fall flat on their face. And to know that that's something that our nervous system has to learn, our brain has to learn, and we can support this development in our child. It's just an exciting topic to me. It's even something I think as grownups we have to continue to sort of develop within ourselves. But to know that, hey, this is something I can give my kids is exciting.
Yeah. Well, even like you said, I think it's important for parents, because there's times when parents just give up trying and give up asking their kids stuff because they think it's just going to fail. Right. But I love this quote that you included in the notes, because I do see this reaction a lot, is kids, because they seemingly care way too much, they think the goal is to just not care. Right. So I love this quote, that failure tolerance isn't about not caring when you lose. It's about knowing you'll survive it.
Right. I think that also speaks to, I don't know, I think our generation has this a lot, but that when we mess up, we've got to beat ourselves up. You know, it's sort of like, well, that's how you show you care.
Sure, that's right.
You know, if you're yelling at yourself, or your coach is yelling at you, or you're that's showing that you care.
Yeah, I've seen it with sports. If I have a team I'm supporting and I'm mad they lost, and that guy seems like he's okay, like he's not upset, he's not like really mad at himself, I think he doesn't care.
Right. And so we have this belief system that that's what shows that we care. So if someone's not doing that, then they don't care. I want my kid to do that because it shows me they care.
Yeah.
And that's actually, that's not really true.
I know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's other things we can do to show that we care.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just need to be that. So I want to just kind of just throw that out.
Yeah.
And show, and so we're not saying that kids are just gonna be like, oh, I messed up.
I lost.
Who cares? But they also don't need to mess up and go, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm an idiot, and do that. So we are talking about the other approach between those two.
And like I said, this is exactly what I'm dealing with a handful of kids right now, helping them understand that, because they're great kids, but when they lose, it's I mean, even when their favorite sports team is on TV losing, they're really upset, right? So let's kind of hit upon three types of kids who tend to struggle with failure tolerance, and maybe as listeners, just try to see if you identify this with any of your kids. Okay, so the first one we're going to call the melter. Okay, the melter. One mistake equals complete and total shutdown. They start sobbing as soon as they have a wrong answer, or they miss a goal, or somehow they do something wrong socially. Okay. Their nervous system reads failure as a threat, and they just go full alarm. It's just like the alarm has gone off inside. It's beeping really loud, and it's not manipulation. It's just genuine dysregulation.
Yeah. So some kids, their nervous system response is, this is terrible, the worst thing in the world. They fall to pieces. They're weeping on the soccer field. They're, just having that big emotional reaction of tears and upset, and it's their nervous system. And I think sometimes we want to shut it down. We want to dismiss it. We need to look at that child and go, oh, their nervous system says something really catastrophic happened. And that's how it's responding. It's having this nervous system response. They're no longer in their prefrontal cortex. We talk about the brain all the time. They're back in their limbic system or brainstem saying, this is the worst thing in the world. And so we need to look at them and just sort of have that's the lens we're looking through of what's going on inside my child right now. Because they failed at something. They messed something
Well,
up.
we said there, it's not manipulation. What do you mean by that? How is that? Like, why would someone think that's being manipulative?
Well, I think, well-intentioned, but we think, oh, if they mess up, they do this so we won't be hard on them.
Or we try to get us off their back or try to not take responsibility. Yeah. And I think sometimes parents are like, oh, I was going to correct him, but now I can't because he's like throwing this big fit. Okay. Now I can see that totally he's just trying to manipulate it to get us to feel bad for him or something like that. Right.
Yeah. And their brain is just in the self-protecting
That's good.
mode.
So the second type of kid, what's titled the quitter, right? So as soon as it gets hard, the kid walks away or literally just quits on their team. I just had a kid a couple weeks ago who I was helping who that happened in a big game. It wasn't going their way, and the kid just went to the bench and just wouldn't play anymore. And this was kind of surprising because the kid wasn't like that. But was interesting in talking to the kid had never been in a game that important before. So all the other games, the kid had lost a lot of times.
Stakes,
yeah. So the parents were surprised as to why is he acting like this? Because he's lost before, but it was like to him, he's never lost a game that big, right? So here it's basically like the kid drops the instrument or drops the sport or the kid just gives up on the friendship. Quitting feels like control to the kid. Staying feels like guaranteed humiliation. It's like you're just saying, I'm in to be embarrassed and look stupid. The brain, though, is actually protecting the kid's ego by avoiding the moment of failure. So the kid's trying to get out of that to try to protect their own sense of self.
And I mean, come on, we've all been there. We've all been there where we won't go out and try this thing. We won't go out on the dance floor. We won't, I was going to learn to ride a bike, but never mind. And I know, those are small examples, but we have all had that almost, I'm not even going to put myself out there because of the risk to me and who I am as a person, how people will see me. And that is legitimate.
Yeah.
Right? That's a legitimate concern that you could have, especially can you imagine the schools these kids are in and what their peers might think of them. And so these are high stakes for kids, know, and I think we need to honor that it is high stakes and go, okay, they're afraid of failure. That's reasonable. And this might be the path they take. They might just say, never mind.
Yeah. I'm seeing a pattern here, though, that seems very personal to me, Sarah. This is what's happened to me about teams that I really like. It's like, I feel like when I was my most immature, I did the first one. I was the melter. I would get really upset. And then I feel like I matured. I became the quitter. So I was kind of like, I'm done watching this team. I'm turning this channel right now. And I just didn't want to watch anymore. But now I feel like I moved into the third one, which might be the avoider. So the avoider, which is I won't try what they won't try what they might not be best at. Okay. So this kid, maybe like a teen who opts out entirely. I see this all the time. Kids not even going to try out for the golf team. Or not going to try out because they just assume it's going to go bad. The kid will say this. I hear this a lot too. I don't care is often the kid saying, I care too much to risk finding out. Right. It's a real defense mechanism to protect themselves. Failure tolerance here is so low that avoidance feels safer than attempting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, that's what I'm saying about the sports team. I might not even watch the game because I'm like, I don't think my team's going to win. So I don't even want to watch it. And I have struggled with that. I've thought, why can't I still support? I only support them when they win. That seems kind of weird. I should be able to support my team no matter what. But it's almost like I feel like I can't handle it. So why? And then I think, as I'm talking right now, I think there's so many things like even I'm not very good at fix-it stuff, right? I mean, your dad's really great at fixing stuff around the house. I'm not. It was always a bad experience for me growing up. So I don't even attempt it. I don't even want to try it, right?
Yeah.
Because I assume it's going to go bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to put them all three in a row, let's say your child's never roller skated. So at first we have the kid who's going to go out and try to roller skate. Every time they fall down, they're just a puddle of tears and they're crying and you get them back up, but then they fall again and cry. And then you have the kid who goes out there, falls once or twice and like, I'm done. I'm done with this. This is stupid. Forget it.
This is dumb.
Yeah. And then you have the kid who looks at everyone roller skating and says, nah, I'm not even going to give that a shot. Yeah. And so that's kind of how and it could be a science project. It could be going out for, trying out for a play. It could be, in all those categories that you can see those three roles play out.
Okay. As Sarah is explaining these to you listeners, try to identify which one you are. I think I'm definitely the avoider. I think there's, as you're saying that, there's so many things where I'm like, I'm not even going to do that. I think it's dumb. I don't want to try it because I assume, why would I do it if I'm not good at it? Right. I just think
go get someone who is good
exactly. I know. So I'm really doing some self-introspection here. So be thinking about which one you tend to go to. And maybe some of that's been modeled to your kids or which one, maybe you understand that kid in your family that's like you in a similar way. But let's move into now understanding it, right? These aren't character flaws. It isn't something that's broken with your kid. This is it's just brain science. It is neuroscience. And there are ways to get better at it. So first of all, we want to explain that failure tolerance, it lives in the prefrontal prefrontal cortex. Okay. That's where your thinking, the regulating part of your brain is. That's where we want to get up to that prefrontal cortex. But when it's online, the child can feel disappointment and reason through it. Okay. So when the kid is in the prefrontal cortex and they fail, they can take a moment, reflect, that they can feel the disappointment. The disappointment there is probably at like on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe it's at a 2, 3, possibly a 4, but they can actually reason through it and say, yeah, that was a really hard team. Or like, we played really well. Or I'm proud of how I did that day. Right.
Yeah. They have the sadness. It's fine to have the disappointment. That's a normal human response. But then they're able to move forward, right? It's that next step that's possible because of the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, and so when they get flooded by shame or fear, what we want you to understand is, Dr. Siegel talks about this upstairs, downstairs approach to the brain, that your kid kind of starts going downstairs, the prefrontal cortex goes offline, and now they start moving into the survival part of their brain. And shame is the mechanism that turns failure into collapse. So I want you just compassionately to be able to see that when it happens to your kid, that when they're doing those 3 we talked about, it's really just shame saying, this ain't going to go well. There's something wrong with you, or you definitely stink at this. So failure will simply say something like, hey, I got that wrong. Like, I messed up that test.
Right.
I could have studied more. Next time I will. But shame says you are wrong. There is something wrong with you. So like a child swimming in shame is unable to access that part of the brain that says, let's try again.
Right.
Let's give this another try.
Right. Because it's an identity. It's an identity of not being capable, of being shameful, it's wrong with me at my core. It's not just, this thing I can build and grow in, and I'm the problem.
Yeah. Well, once again, as an adult, the way this works out is like, there is shame around my inability to do those home improvement projects as well as your dad, right? Is I love my wife. I want to be able to take care of some of these projects, and your dad's really good at them. I'm not. So when it becomes even slightly hard, it's just a little bit hard, immediately my brain goes to, you're gonna prove that you are incompetent and you're incapable of fixing this little thing, and almost like the littler it is, the more shameful it is, because it's like it's a big thing. I could be like, I gave it a try. I mean, sure, but it's like if I tried that little thing and failed at it, it'd be even bigger. And I really relate to kids who feel that even if I tried this little thing and I failed at it, so it's good to keep in mind that failure is just an event, but shame makes that event an identity. And that's the difference between a child who tries again and a child who will stop trying. Okay. Because the nervous system actually learns failure tolerance the same way it learns everything else, through repeated experiences of failing, feeling supported, recovering, trying again.
I want to put something in here that as I was like going through this and preparing this, I think it's really hard for us to watch our kids fail, right? And I think there's a piece of this we have to own too, of the judgment in the parenting world of, if my child goes up and fails at their science project, or doesn't land the part, or isn't on the first team for some sports or something, right? Then it's like, it's not just my kid. It's I am a bad parent, because if I was a good parent, my kid would win the science fair, would do these things, right? So I think it's not just our kids who look around and go, oh man, I can't fail. That says something bad about me. But it's the parents who also look around and go, oh, well, I'm a good parent because my kid can do this. I've given them, instead of, we don't have this, we need to have more of a culture of, kids go out, we try things, we learn, we grow, we fail. And this is a good thing. It's building things in our brain that's wonderful. It's going to help us for the rest of our lives. So it's our kids, but I think there's this parent level to it.
I agree.
As well. That's really hard.
Yeah, especially in a successfully performance-driven culture.
Yeah.
Where we define.
If my kid is struggling with math and gets a C,
it means I've done something wrong.
We don't look and go, oh, okay, that kid needs to, math is hard.
And that this is an opportunity for them to learn how to face conflict and challenges and overcome it.
And it's okay that we can fail at things. We're going to be good at things and fail at things and learn and grow.
But I really want to nail in that point though, Sarah, that the way to help your kid through it is the cycle of the kid fails, the kid messes up, makes a mistake. Then the kid feels supported by you. And then the kid's able to recover, meaning like their central nervous system's able to relax, calm down. Hey, it didn't kill you. It's you're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And then the kid can feel confident in giving it another try. And that's actually what it's going to take to get really good at things, right? And each completed cycle that we do with our kids like this builds the neural pathway for the kid to tolerate the next time failure happens. Okay. And this cannot be taught in a really good lecture. It'd be great if it could. Like we just sit down and explain this to them in a really good lecture, but it's only built through experience that happens over and over again.
So they fail, they try, they fail, they try, they fail, they try, they fail, and they get up and they get up. And, what's amazing is little babies have this right already. They fall down, they get up and try to walk again. They fall down, they get up and try to walk again, right? And it's something they learn later. Oh, that's not okay to try and fall down,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and also we do that kind of cycle. We go, oh, you fell down. Oh, you want to get up again? And like the kid even might be crying as they fall down. Oh no, you did great. Like I saw, and they might help the kid back up. And like, we don't think like, what is happening? Why is my kid falling down? Because we don't have fear that the kid won't eventually learn how to walk. We trust the kids.
We have this actually great mindset about learning to walk, but then later in life, we kind of struggle with these failures that also need to be repeated and happen over.
Well, let's just identify like mistakes that parents make that they accidentally do, us included, that can actually make it worse for a kid to learn this, right? And most parents doing these things, we totally believe, love their kids deeply. But that's exactly why it happens, because we love them deeply and we think this is the best way. So first of all, number one is praise that's too outcome focused, meaning saying things like, oh, you're so smart, after each success. When we do that kind of stuff, we're really praising the outcome. The child learns their worth is tied to that outcome. And then what that leads to is the next failure feels like proof that they're not smart. So now their identity is threatened, okay? In the research on this, we know that outcome-based praise creates a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. So it's kind of like, I used to think this as a kid. I turned in my paper faster than any other kid in my class, and I got an A. That's because I'm smart, right? And then oh man, next year I go, some kid turns it in faster. That means I'm not as smart as that kid. Right. Even though I know sometimes even I sped through the work and I didn't do a great job just to get it in faster. Right. And it becomes all about this outcome-based proof that I'm smart, because that's what people said. The kid who's done quickest is the smartest, right? But that effort praise instead of praising the outcome, so praising the effort, builds failure tolerance. So saying something like, you worked really hard on that, would be a great shift.
Right. Noticing their perseverance, noticing them trying again. So we want to, there's a piece of this that we all know. My child can go out and perform their absolute best, give it their all in a game, and they don't have control over the outcome of the game, right? You could go to a science fair and you could have worked so hard, put in 40 hours of effort, and some other kid could win, because judges judge a certain way. And you don't know what someone else, they could also have a good so it's not, we don't want to just praise the kid for winning the blue ribbon. We want to praise the process. We want to notice the things in them, their creativity, the way that they stuck to something, the way they tried again, the way they problem solved. Those are the things that
they
we can
control
do,
over.
right? Even in the workplace, right? Whether you get a raise or your performance review, all you can do is show up and work really, really hard. And so we don't want to just be like, oh, well, I'm only a good worker if
the boss says I am, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second way is a lot of times we want to rescue our child from feeling the failure, right? They want to really keep them from having. So the parent sees the kid struggling and, will step in to fix it. We try to soften the fall. We try to remove the obstacle. Okay. And a lot of times this feels like I'm being loving. Right. It really feels like I'm loving my kid.
Supporting them.
But basically it functions like a message saying, you can't handle this. I don't believe you can. And I can see why kids, especially the kid, have become the melter. Like, let me rescue the kid before they blow up.
Right.
But the child then never completes the whole failure recovery cycle that we just mentioned earlier. And then supporting, but supporting really means staying present with the kid. And rescuing means removing the experience. So we don't want to remove the experience, but we want to be supportive so we can move through that whole cycle where the kid can learn and grow from the experience.
Right.
Okay. So the third one is, you mentioned this earlier, you kind of hit upon this, is the parent's own discomfort with failure. right? So we get really uncomfortable with it. So if failure felt dangerous in your own childhood, maybe your parents, didn't allow that or didn't see it as a positive thing. Watching your child fail can be so activating, so triggering to a parent, right?
And I like I like that sometimes your child actually might not be struggling.
Yes, that's true.
As much as you're triggered by it. If you weren't allowed to mess up in that way, you weren't allowed to get the bad grade and have to deal with it or not turn in your homework or whatever it might be, then trying to let your child have some of these little failures in childhood and grow from them. You're more triggered than your child.
I'm even thinking of social situations. Like if you had to be perfect in public and you can never mess up, right? Then the parent might be super anxious. Like, you say this, you repeat this, or you talk this way. And like if the kid messes up, the parent is the one feeding the anxiety in the kid. Like these people aren't going to want to be your friends. These parents are going to think bad things about you.
Yeah. Kids pick up on that anxiety. And so you being triggered and having a big, trains their nervous system to do the like.
Yeah. So the child reads the parent's anxiety as confirmation that this is a big deal. This is catastrophic, right? And but really your regulated presence in the midst of that failure is the intervention that they need. So they need to see you understand this isn't a catastrophe. So I think when those moments rise up for a parent being aware of that within you of like, how come I'm freaking out about this? How come I'm reacting in such a big way? Oh, it's because I never thought it was okay to mess up in this way.
Right. Okay? And we need them to experience that recovery, the failure, the recovery. I think the teen years, this is especially hard to watch your teens kind of mess up social situations or mess up homework or mess up. And yet we kind of need to just be there, as their guide and as their support in it and not rescue, not catastrophize, right? We have to let them kind of go through this. I really messed this up, but I can recover.
Yep.
It's not the end of the world.
The fourth one that I see a lot, and I know I can do this as well, Sarah, is minimizing too quickly. Yeah. Like we dismiss it. It's kind of dismissive. Yeah. It's okay. It doesn't matter. And although it's well-intentioned, the kid feels it as you're just dismissing it and saying you shouldn't be worried about that. You shouldn't care about this. Yeah. The child learns my big feelings are not welcome here. Feelings that aren't witnessed don't get resolved. They go underground. And I'm telling you, I see this time and a time with kids who by the time they're teenagers, they've learned to just hide it. Go underground with those because every time they bring it up, there is a big reaction from the parent or the parent dismisses it.
Well, we're uncomfortable with their feelings, right? That is our own, we want to make it better or we weren't allowed to have feelings or whatever the story might be. It's us saying, shut that down. And then when they do, it's like, oh, good.
Yeah. And so what we want to do instead there, we want to acknowledge the feeling, acknowledge it, and then reframe second. Always doing that order. So to tell, what do you mean by that? Like first we're going to acknowledge it, then we're going to reframe it.
Yeah. So we have to just even with our own discomfort, just let it be for a minute. We need to acknowledge what is happening in this moment. What are you feeling in this moment before we go, okay, how do we want to look at this? What are some other ways to see this? So before we take it, we're moving into that next step. We've got to sit with it. We've got to let that moment be and not rush to the next.
If I can share, I remember when our youngest was in a soccer tournament and it was a long weekend in a different city. They beat all these other teams. I think they went in pretty confident they were going to win it and they didn't win it. And I saw as the kids were walking away, some were crying, but our daughter wasn't crying yet. She definitely looked sad. And when I saw her, I just said, man, that was tough, wasn't it? And then the tears just started to flow. And then I hugged her. Right. And as she kind of just sat with that and I hugged her, we walked away. They took some final pictures on the car ride home. That's when the reframing happened. Then she was like, I think maybe we came in too confident, or I think maybe we, whatever this. And like, it was interesting to see how she was starting to work through as she reflected on it because I was able to acknowledge it, be there with her, support her through it. Then she was like, oh yeah, this isn't fatal. I mean, this is actually, and then we were able to talk on the way home. This is like every team goes through this. Every good team loses big games and they lots of times become better because of those losses. So, okay, but here's a great quote. You cannot rescue your child into resilience. They're going to have to feel the failure with you beside them. So if you want your kid to become a resilient kid who's able to bounce back from failure, we need to sit with them in it. Don't try to get them out of it. Okay. So let's talk about as parents, what is our relationship with failure? Because that's really important for us to be aware of that, because we're going to teach that to our kids. Okay. So this is the section that lots of us as parents just want to skip, right? So don't skip it. Okay. Don't skip it. Stay with me here. Don't skip it. Okay. Your child, and I know you know this, and this isn't any guilt trip type stuff, but it's important to remember this. Our children are watching us on how we handle failure every day. Okay. Do we as a couple or as on our own, do we talk about our mistakes out loud? Do we admit them? Do we model trying things that we might not be good at? Do the kids see us show that kind of courage? Do we repair when we get it wrong? Or do we just go silent, act like it didn't happen, and just move on, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of be reflecting on, how do you typically handle your failure? Now, children will develop this kind of failure tolerance partly through our modeling, right? It's really important that they're watching us go through this. A parent who never admits failure teaches this, that failure is shameful and it should be hidden. And a parent who says, I got that wrong, let me try that again, that teaches that failure is survivable.
Yeah, I think this is hard, right? We have to deal with our own messaging we got as kids from schools or coaches or parents or whatever. And we have to work on those parts of our own failure. And then it's sort of just living it out in front of our children, letting them see that, modeling that, and messing up and taking note. I was thinking, I don't know that I think sometimes I do have some resiliency, and I mess up some home project and I think, okay, well, how else could I do this?
I think you're really good at that. Yeah.
But I think I have to sometimes be real conscious to say, I mean, they're watching anyway, but just be like, oh, you know what? I noticed I did that, and I wish I would have done that, and now I'm disappointed, and I'm going to go do this.
I think a great example you do that is like crafts. Like, you do crafts all the time with the kids, and crafts don't go the way you wanted, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you knocked out a perfect one every time, that's pretty intimidating to the kids, right? But like, you mess up, and like, what are we going to do with this mess up, right? I remember we used to read that book. Do you remember that one book where it was a whole book on turning mess ups into something beautiful? It's like every page was a mistake, and then they turned it into some kind of art. It's really,
I'll have to share some of those books. They're really great for mistakes and learning resilience.
Well, and the truth is, honey, the most powerful failure tolerance lesson our kids will ever receive from us is watching us fail and us stick with it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
Let me
really
try that again.
Yep. And this isn't about performing vulnerability. It's about being human out loud. What I mean by that is, it's not about just like faking this, but it's about showing this is what it's like to be human, So I'm not just trying to look all vulnerable and like just perform that, but it is to say, when you try throughout life is about messing up. Some of the most courageous, inspiring stories are from the Olympics, not when somebody wins it all, but when somebody fails at it and still finishes, right? So your child actually doesn't need you or want you to be a perfect parent. They need you to be one that knows how to recover from failure and mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's how to build failure tolerance over time. So we want to wrap up with some key things you can be doing. Okay. So this isn't just, we're not giving you a script for the hard moment, but more of a long game orientation, meaning like we want you focusing on the long game. We're looking at when our kids leave our houses and go off to college or whatever they're going to do with their life, what have we done in the long game to help them build this?
And it has to be the long game.
Yeah.
You can't do this twice.
Yes. Yep.
It's literally something you'll do all during their childhood, all during their teen years. You'll keep doing this.
Yeah. So we're going to jump through these last 4 pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. 4 things that build failure tolerance across weeks, months, years. Okay. So first one. So if you got a pen and paper, get ready for this. Number 1, stay present in the failure. Do not try to fix it. Sit with them. I know this is so uncomfortable, so hard. And I don't really remember my parents doing this all that often, but sit with them in the disappointment without rushing to some kind of silver lining, right? And that's so many times the kids I'm seeing in counseling and helping kids with this, it's the parents are typically doing this. I know, because they love their kids and don't want to see their kids suffer, right?
Yeah.
So something like just saying, that was really hard. I'm right here with you. Mm-hmm. Okay. And like all I did was hold my daughter as she cried on the soccer field, right? I just sat there. Presence during failure is what wires that I can survive this. I will overcome this. I can live through this. Repair does happen naturally after they feel felt by you, meaning like they feel like you get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, let's switch from outcome praise to process or effort praise. Like, let's not say we're not going to say you were amazing, but you kept going when it got hard. man, that was impressive, right?
Just that noticing of the effort in the process.
Yeah, not you're so talented, but man, I watched you figure that out. That was a big problem, right? I mean, that I love that. That's awesome. This rewires what the child believes their worth is based on. That their worth doesn't come from their performance, but it comes from actually the work they're putting into it. Okay, worth tied to effort equals failure is information, not identity. And that just makes me think of like being a scientist.
I know. I love that. I try to say that too.
Yep.
Like, it's okay. The best scientists are businessmen, or they failed a bunch and they learned.
I know. You hear that over and over again.
Yes. These failures are like, oh, what can I learn? This is great.
And number 3, let them do hard things and don't smooth the path, right? Like, I know this is thrown around a lot, like lawnmower parenting, or even the word like snowflake, these kind of critical, judgmental ways of thinking. But in parenting this way, like we're actually trying to invite the kid to do something really hard. We're not trying to just take away all the obstacles. So you're looking at age appropriate struggle as the curriculum for failure tolerance. So we talked about at little kids, it's getting up and walking, right? It's doing these. That's a very hard thing, right? But that's going to turn into other. But you're looking at what is the age appropriate struggle that can help my kid learn this. Okay, so things like boredom, conflict with peers, losing. I'm thinking of video games. Losing video games, starting over. These are not problems to solve.
Yeah.
Okay, they're actually part of the curriculum to help your kid learn failure tolerance. So your job in these moments is to stay regulated beside them and not remove the obstacle. So ask them something like, what do you think you want to do now, before offering solutions? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think life presents so many of these opportunities.
Naturally, yeah.
And we just have to remember to stay present with them and help them through it. And then the repair will come. Life is giving it to them all the time.
And number 4, I think, is one of my favorites. I do like this a lot because I've had a lot of great conversations with our kids, or even us as a couple. Debriefing after failure, but only when they're calm. Like, you're not debriefing in the moment, when they're calm. So not in the moment of the meltdown, but after regulation returns. So you're asking something like, what happened? Well, what would you have done differently? Well, what did you learn from it? This is kind of what I did with my daughter on the way back from the soccer tournament, right? So this is the prefrontal cortex exercising and building the pathway it needs to do it differently next time, right? So the kid starts to go, oh, look at that. I learned, and like I grew from that moment. That was actually great. And if not done in the middle of the meltdown, I think these conversations are very enjoyable. Yeah,
I would say 2 things to remember when you're going to do that, because a lot of people feel like they can't do it. Their kid can't do it.
Yep.
And the 2 things you need to make sure before you enter into these kind of conversations is your child is truly regulated, back to a really good place. Because sometimes they're like almost there, but wait, it doesn't matter. It could be that night. It could be the next day. Don't wait forever, but make sure they're truly regulated and make sure you're truly connected to them.
Love it.
Because if they're not feeling connected to you, they're also not.
And this is advice for me that I need to keep in mind. Keep it short, keep it curious, no shame, and this is not a lecture, right? Yeah. So I think I know I'm not in the right place, Sarah, when I'm not doing those. When I'm going on and on, I'm not really curious. I've already got my mind made up what the kid needs to learn. And so if you're in that state, that means you're not ready for that either.
Yeah. Okay? Because we we mean well. We mean like, oh, I need to make sure my kid learns this. We might even be frustrated. We're like, they need to have these takeaways. Yeah. And so we move into that and we kind of lose it in that moment.
Well, and failure tolerance isn't built in the moment of crisis. Like we're saying, it's not when it's built. It's built in the 1,000 small moments before it. And that's where you'll start seeing the kid be able to rebound quicker from it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit. We'll wrap up with a word about the teen who's already avoiding this, because lots of times that is frustrating for a parent, because I'm encouraging them to do these things, but then the teen is kind of closed off. So if your child is already in avoidance mode, just worry it's not too late. Like this can change. Avoidance is a nervous system protection strategy. It's not a character flaw in your kid. But you can't logic them out of this. You can make the relationship safe enough that they are willing to risk again. And I'm telling you, so that's most of the work I'm doing when I'm coaching parents with their teens, is helping their teen trust that their parent can handle it and their parent can do it, right?
And we have to do our work to make sure we can handle it and let them fail and not feel like this is the end of the world for them.
And what they're looking for, every time they fail, they don't want to see you catastrophize it. You want to make sure the threshold lowers slightly, like you're getting less and less freaked out by the failures. Because when the teenagers, it can be pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
Every time they quit and you stay curious instead of disappointed, trust will build. Okay. So just kind of like take it slow, take it easy. You're doing the long game here. Small invitations to try low stakes things, not lectures about, potential at all. Right. So you're really talking about, you're just inviting them into little ways to connect, little ways to talk about these things, not the big conversations. So start with the small stuff. And we're not talking about what their future potential is and what they're, all the ways they should be growing from this, because that does get too big and too personal. Okay. So remember this quote: a teenager who avoids challenge isn't giving up on themselves. Okay. They're not giving up on themselves. They're protecting the self they're not sure is strong enough yet. Your job is to be the evidence that it is. Like I emphasize, like they're looking in your eyes. Do you believe they can do it? Do you believe they can overcome it? Because many times parents kind of talk two ways. They'll get mad that the kid won't, but then they'll tell me they don't believe the kid can. So like, I'll be like, you've got to believe they can.
Yeah.
Why would the kid believe they can if you don't believe they can, right? So failure tolerance, and just wrapping this up, it's not a personality trait. It is a learned capacity. So what we mean by that, it's the ability to learn that you have the capacity to fail, to overcome, to learn. It's built through feeling failure, feeling supported, then recovering, and then trying again. So your presence in their hard moments is the very building material that they need to be able to grow from that. It's not about you fixing it. It's not about you being reassuring. It really is just your presence. It's just you being there. And to me, that's relieving.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
We just need to show up. We need to believe in them, care for them.
Yeah.
And their brain actually is going to move in this direction.
Yeah. And so you will wrap up with this thought. You don't raise a child who handles failure well by protecting them from it. You raise them by being safe to fail around. Okay. And so we really hope this was helpful in helping you reframe your thoughts about your kid's failure, but also your own, right? And know that through that process of just falling down, feeling supported, recovering, and trying again, that eventually you will find success. So thank you so much for listening, and share this with any family or parent you know who's struggling with this and has such a problem with failure, drives them nuts. Send this to them to help them start seeing it differently, because we know failure can feel really scary as a parent because you think you're messing it all up, right?
Yeah.
But it's part of living, it's part of growing, and we really appreciate you taking the time to listen. So have a wonderful day. The Art of Raising Humans podcast should not be considered or used as counseling, but for educational purposes only.